We're being recorded. Am I sharing?
No, doctor. No.
Good. I think I am now. Yalla, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good evening, everyone. This is me, Dr. Sameh, and this is the Jeddah virtual pavilion. We've been doing this for the past 2 weeks, and this is our third week. This is a set of cultural encounters, and on the margin we have a number of workshops. Covering ideas and themes like teacher development, and also things that have to do with what you guys do as students. One such thing is the workshop that we have tonight by none other than Joyce Barakat, our dear graduating student. She's presenting tonight, and I think what she's presenting is very interesting and very pertinent to what you guys are doing in your studies. She's going to approach nonfiction and ways and means as how we can approach nonfiction, analyze nonfiction, explore themes and ideas, unravel and uncover biases and lack of objectivity sometimes. So this is what Joyce is doing tonight, and after we finish with Joyce at the top of the hour at 12 a.m., I'm going to take over and give another workshop, but this time around it's going to be on and about TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language, whether we're talking about graduating students who are considering working as teachers, or in-service teachers that are already there working and perhaps mid-career or even beyond. Let me introduce Joyce, and we are on our way. Joyce, are you ready?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, but you can now share, and I'll disappear. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Sameh, for this great opportunity. But I need to double check. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Now we
perfect.
can see.
Okay, perfect. Inshallah, today we will discuss how to handle non-fictional work. And this is very important for us as students of English literature, because most of our course books basically depend on understanding many of non-fictional works. So let's get started. So first of all, okay, we need to understand. Yes?
I cannot see your screen.
I'm sharing the screen. Is this a problem with everyone?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see it, right? Okay.
Okay, I'll go out, then come back, okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
yeah,
thank
good.
you. Okay, let's get back to this, inshallah, okay? So, first of all, we need to understand the importance of nonfiction. Like, if someone asks us, what is a simple definition of nonfiction? Of course, everyone's going to answer, it's a literary genre based on real events, facts, and true accounts, of course. But the question is, why is it important? Okay, we are exposed to nonfiction daily, either through the news, the magazines, course books, or even on social media. You know, reading nonfictional works can actually foster critical thinking skills and give us the ability to read between the lines. However, we cannot just assume everything we read is completely accurate, especially online, with many published content for either financial gain or even just for attention. Even the published works aren't infallible. They can contain inaccuracy or reflect the author's biases. So we need to question the accuracy and the fairness of every nonfictional work we read, because after all, nonfiction is shaped by the author's perspectives, purposes, and even political views. But before we delve into the different types of biases, we need to understand that approaching nonfictional works differ from the fictional one. Personally, I prefer reading fiction because After all, I like reading books and stuff, and it's easier than the non-fictional, boring topics. And it's enjoyable, easy to follow, as well as it's easy to elaborate if we're asked about anything related to that work. On the other hand, dealing with non-fictional works, we need to exert more efforts on understanding the work, read it several times, try to figure out the intended messages, what the author's background is, and of course, the countless technical terms that you need to Google every few seconds. As we know, fiction and nonfiction serve different purposes. So fiction normally relies on creative storytelling, often imaginary, and the purpose behind it is either to entertain, inspire, or provoke thoughts. These works can be either novels, short stories, plays, and so on. And it mainly follows a plot with characters and a setting, sometimes drawing loosely from a reality, but primarily inventing the story and the character. But on the other hand, nonfiction is based on facts, actual real events and information. And the main purpose behind a non-fictional work is either to inform us, to educate us, or even to persuade us to change our point of view about something. Now, there are different types of nonfiction. They can be biographies, autobiographies, history books, news articles, and so on. The authors of non-fictional works organize their content around facts, arguments, or research rather than just fictional plot. So whenever we read fiction, okay, we focus on the themes, on the symbolism, on the characters, and we engage with the stories on a deeper level. But reading nonfiction requires us to evaluate the author's perspective, assess their credibility and the credibility of the sources, and also we need to consider a potential bias to better understand the information presented. Now, since nonfiction is based on real events and information, it is important to consider where that information comes from. You know, we have primary and secondary sources. And of course, throughout the courses, we always talked about this, which help us determine the reliability and the depth of what we read. Of course, our professors always remind us, probably the most repeated sentence in every lecture, that we can't just read the literary work itself. We have to read the secondary sources too. They keep telling us that understanding a text isn't just about the story itself, but also about the different interpretations and analysis that come with it. And honestly, definitely they have a point, because secondary sources help us see the bigger picture and challenge our views and add depth to our arguments. But the main question is, what's the difference between primary and secondary sources? As you know, primary sources are first-hand accounts, like the original works, the original materials that provide direct evidence about a topic. These sources offer first-hand perspectives, as they are created at the time of the events or by someone directly involved. There are several examples, like diaries, letters, photographs, speeches, and official documents, all of which capture events, emotions, and details as they originally occurred. Also, literary works like novels, poems, or plays can also be primary sources. It's not just nonfiction. We can actually have fictional works as primary sources because they're written by the authors themselves. They reflect their thoughts, their culture, even historical context. Several times when we read any novel or any work, we can understand the culture of that time, how people dealt with many things. Every work reflects that time that the author wrote that, or the era of that work. Now, secondary sources, on the other hand, are not the original works. They are interpretations, analysis, summaries of the primary sources. created by people who did not directly experience the events. These sources can help us explain or analyze or even critique the primary materials, offering a deeper understanding of the topic. We can have like several examples of this can be textbooks, biographies, academic articles, documentaries, you name it. All of them are produced normally after the events, sometimes a few months after, sometimes centuries after. So we need to basically understand that primary sources are the main stuff written at that time. Secondary are the interpretations and the analysis about the main topic. Now, since secondary sources interpret original information, they're useful for gaining like insights, identifying patterns, understanding different perspectives on the historical and literary topics. Now, in evaluating a non-fictional work, we need to focus on the reliability of the source. Like both primary and secondary sources can be reliable, but sometimes they have some limitations. Primary sources are generally more accurate for direct facts, since they come from first-hand experiences, but they may also reflect personal biases of the authors. On the other hand, secondary sources provide context and interpretations, helping to analyze and explain events, but they can also include the bias of either the historian, the researcher, or the author who wrote that work. So it is important to understand that these biases, understanding these biases is crucial when studying nonfiction, as it allows us to critically assess the information we read. So to better understand this, okay, I got you an example from one of our course books from EA 300B. I think who graduated already know this topic, okay, but those who haven't graduated yet, don't worry, you're going to take it sooner or later. So here, the primary source is in this case, is the original book, the original picture book written by Beatrix Potter, when it's written, in 1902. So this is the original work, okay? Now, the secondary sources are are the works that scholars and researchers who wrote about them. Like they wrote secondary sources that can analyze, interpret, or critique Potter's work. Examples can be like Margaret Mackay's Peter Rabbit, Potter's Story. Here, she explored Potter's narrative techniques, the ways she tried to portray her story. We have also Peter Hollindale's Aesop and the Shadows, which analyzed the moral themes and fables in the story. We have also Carol Scott's perspectives and point of view in The Tale of Peter Rabbit, which examined basically visual storytelling and the narrative perspective. So these secondary sources explore Potter's storytelling, themes, and artistic choices, offering new insights into the original work. When I took this story, of course, at the beginning, I just read the story, I understood it, and that's it. I did not even think about reading between the lines because after all, it's a children's literature book. So I did not even give it a second thought. I thought it's going to be very easy. There is no problem with it. But when we read the articles, of course, it's an eye-opening experience, to be honest, because there are certain things that we never even dream about thinking about it when we read a picture book, okay? So they can be really insightful. Now, okay, so now that we talked about the primary and secondary sources, it is important to recognize the different types of biases, as this can help us in evaluating the sources. Like from the beginning, I'm saying bias, but can anyone please define what a bias is? Can I have anyone, please? What's a bias? If someone told you about this matter, like personal bias or historical bias or whatever.
Can I answer?
Yeah, sure, please.
So a bias is a let's say a tendency or someone's tendency to favor or be against a person or a group or maybe a certain idea or thing in an let's say in an unfair or unbalanced way.
Definitely,
Do I keep
definitely.
going
Thank you.
or is that it?
If you want to, no problem, go for it.
I was really going to like mention something very small
Sure.
regarding the biases. It could be maybe intentional, sometimes it could be unconscious, and it often leads to distorted judgment,
Definitely.
and it could affect
Definitely.
someone's behavior or decision making, and also how
Yeah,
people regarding this topic on how people interpret information.
perfect. Thank you so much, dear. Thank you. Okay, as our friend defined bias, yes, definitely. It is a preconceived opinion or preference that affects our interpretations. It can be intentional or unintentional, and of course, leading to a distorted or one sided perspective. However, there are certain types of biases. We have something called confirmation bias, which means like favoring information that supports existing beliefs while ignoring contradictions. We have another type called selection bias, choosing specific data that aligns with a preferred viewpoint. Of course, we have cultural bias, which is obviously like interpreting information through the lens of one's own culture. Political bias, presenting events to support a political ideology. And of course, historical bias, judging the past based on modern values or ignoring certain context, and so on. So, understanding the different types of bias is very important in interpreting non-fictional work because it can actually help us understand the main message behind the work. Okay, now there's a clear example of bias in secondary sources. Okay, I got you this from our course AA 100B. Okay, this is from the chapter of the art of Benin. For those who haven't taken the course yet, don't worry, we're not gonna spoil it for you. But what you need to know is that we have to give you a bit of context. Okay, these two secondary sources, okay, deal with what happened in the Kingdom of Benin after the British invasion in 1897. So when we analyze these two documents, we have a report written by Captain Galway, okay, who submitted it for his superiors. And we have a book called City of Blood written by Bacon and where he described his experience when he visited Benin, okay? So when we analyze these two documents, Captain Galway's letter seems less biased than Bacon, to be honest. However, it was still influenced by the perspectives of those around him. In contrast, City of Blood contained strong political bias, where Bacon portrayed Benin as a savage land with exaggerated depiction of bloody rituals, reflecting, of course, the British colonial attitudes. So when we are taking any course, we need to understand it's not just, okay, we read this letter, okay, he talks about his experience and here he describes this. It's not just like this. We need to understand we need to read between the lines because after all, there is an intended message. And when we write anything, if of course, even if we just want to write anything right now, we're not just gonna just write it just for fun or just we're gonna be super objective. Of course, it's going to be influenced by our own experiences, our own morals, point of view. So no matter how much we try to make it as objective as possible, we can't. We have to add a little bit of our touch in it, and our background will actually interfere here. There is another example, okay, but this one I took it from AA 100A. I think the majority know this so far. So it's a chapter on Cleopatra's reputation. Here we have primary and secondary sources, and both of them were shaped by political biases. As the majority can remember, the primary sources were coins, okay, from that time, and sculptures that projected the image of Cleopatra and the way she wanted it to be, wanted her image to be perceived among people as a powerful and a divine ruler. Okay, but on the other hand, we have secondary sources like the Roman sources, like we know what Cassius Dio and Plutarch and Horace wrote about the matter. And of course, these are Roman scholars. They basically, these works were written by her enemies who depicted her as a manipulative seductress just to justify the Roman dominance. Of course, this kind of works that we took in our courses, it's a great example on how, like, nonfiction often reflects the biases and agendas of its authors or creators rather than just presenting an objective truth. So we need to be able to address each source carefully. So whenever we read something, it's not just read it and get on with it. No, it's not just understanding the meaning and understanding the difficult words. We need to understand who wrote it, why was it written, do we have any biases? So there are some, like, we need to explore now some key strategies for analyzing the non-fictional work effectively. Okay, of course, after reading it and understanding the text with all its technical terms, we need to think critically. How are we going to do that? First of all, we need to check the author. We need to ask ourselves questions like, who wrote it? What's their background? Because after all, the author can checking the author's background can actually give us some hints about the message. Also, we need to ask ourselves, could they have an agenda? Is there a certain reason or purpose for writing this work? Once we're done with the author and analyzing everything related to the author, we need to look for sources. Like, how did they write their work? Did they rely on reliable sources? Did they provide evidence? Or they just cherry pick information? So once we're done with checking the sources and the author, we need to identify biases. We need to ask ourselves some questions like, is the author pushing a particular viewpoint? It's not just about, yeah, he did or no, he did not. We need to compare different perspectives, especially by looking at other sources, other works that were written on the same topic during the same period as well, or even from different eras. It's not a big deal. We need to see the different perspectives. By looking at other sources, we can tell, are they telling the same story, or do they offer something else? Do they have a different take on the matter? So this can give us a lot. Is this a reliable source after all, or someone is trying to push it in a certain direction? So once we're done with this, we need to identify, of course, to ask several questions like, what's missing? What's being emphasized? Is there a certain idea that they keep on repeating over and over and over again? Are they missing something important? Are they trying to avoid a certain topic? So the more we question it, the better, because it will help us understand what's really being said here. Now, we're done talking about the difference between primary and secondary sources, about the different types of biases, but now we have to ask ourselves how to use this knowledge effectively. Many of us, including myself, struggled at first with incorporating these sources into our essays. Especially when we have a quiz or an exam. Okay, we understand that we can read, we can analyze, we can identify the biases, we can understand what's the message here, and all the difficult terms. But the real question is, what do we do with this information? Okay, now I understood it. What am I going to do with it? Am I just gonna how am I gonna use it? It's not gonna, okay, I read it for a reason. It's not just there for the knowledge. I need to be able to use this knowledge to strengthen my essays and our arguments. Maybe if it's not about exams, we can use it in arguing. If we have a debate or an argument with someone, we can actually use our knowledge in a way that can strengthen our argument. So now I tried to look for several, like when I started university and stuff, I tried to look for a certain like technique that can help me with this. I felt the best way is with something called the point example support analysis method. I know it's a long term, but it's self-explanatory because we have a point, we provide an example, we support it, and we add our analysis. So this one is very important because like it can help us actually write something decent. Now, how does this work? Well, as we said, the name. First, we have to make a point. Okay, we clearly state our argument or idea. Once we're done with that, we need to provide an example. Many of us thought that this is the right thing to do, and that if we write something like this, it's more than enough. It's not just make a point and give an example. Okay, we presented an idea and we gave an example. Okay, then what? It's missing. Why did you use this example? What am I going to benefit from this? I need to support it. I need to add how or explain how this source adds credibility or insight to the topic. Okay, I gave the point, I gave the example, I gave the support, and then what? I'm not going to just submit my work like that. I need to analyze. Our professors love to hear how we analyze things. Now, how am I going to analyze it? We need to discuss if maybe the source is biased, maybe we're going to discuss its reliability, maybe how it's relevant to our argument. We need to add our own voice to it. So using this method actually can help us create well-structured critical responses in essays, and trust me, can give us high grades on exams. So try to use this next time when you have a graded document or graded work. So, and hope you will achieve a better grade, inshallah. Now, you're going to say, yeah, this is easy, but I don't know which source to use. I have several sources. I don't know which source am I supposed to pick. I have a primary source here, and I have many secondary sources. How am I going to pick? You're telling me I give a point and give an example and support. But which one is which? Which one am I going to use? Well, I have some tips for you, okay? If you're looking for direct evidence, always go for the primary source because you cannot get a better source for actual evidence than the primary source because you actually utilize original materials to provide first-hand evidence. Let's keep the example about Cleopatra, okay, and the coins and all this, okay? We know that Cleopatra's coins are considered primary source. Okay, it depicts her wearing the traditional Egyptian symbols and also some of the Greek symbols. Why? What's the message behind it? Of course, to reinforce her image as a legitimate ruler. At the same time, it gives us an idea that this lady is not just Egyptian. She has some Greek like heritage here. So, okay, I got this evidence from my primary source. Why is it? Why does it matter to get it from primary source? Because as we said before, it offers direct insight into historical events, but again, it may reflect the creator's perspectives or agenda. So if we're looking for direct evidence, we're going to hit the primary source. If we're looking for deeper analysis, for interpretations, for critiques, for challenges, of course, we're going to go with the secondary sources because this is what's going to do, this is its job, basically. Because let's say the modern, like the secondary sources, of course, we have the, staying in the same topic, we have the Roman articles written by Cassius Dio, Plutarch, and Horace. These are secondary sources written by the enemies, giving a different point of view. Now, modern historians actually compare between the Roman and the Egyptian portrayals of Cleopatra, and of course, the differences between how she is perceived here and there. But why is it important? Because it can actually help us connect the primary evidence to a broader historical narratives and, of course, scholarly discussion. So, again, primary source for evidence. Deeper analysis, secondary source. Am I done? Definitely not. After that, I need to evaluate the credibility. I have sources like the Roman sources. Are they credible? Definitely not. Not all of them are credible because they serve a certain agenda. And some of them were written 200 years after the events. And the majority didn't even check their facts and sometimes made up their own ideas as well. So we understood when we took this course that these sources are unreliable because they were written just to ruin her reputation. So we need to evaluate the credibility of the sources. So how am I going to do that? Of course, as we said before, we need to assess the author's background, we need to assess their purpose, and of course, what kind of sources they used in their work. As we said, the example here, the Roman historian writing about Cleopatra may portray her negatively due to political bias. So why does it matter to evaluate the credibility of a source? As we said, to understand that understanding the bias ensures that our essays is based on reliable and well-balanced information. We don't just find a source and use it as it is. Okay, are we done? Definitely not. Because if we get any source, we need to cite it properly. We need to say, I got this information from this source, which was written by that person. Because if we don't do this, we're actually plagiarizing the work. What do you mean by plagiarism? It's actually taking someone else's words or work and say that this is our work. So it is to cite. So when they ask us to write an analytical essay based on non-fictional work, okay, we need to make sure that we incorporate everything in it. And at the same time, we need to cite, we need to say from where did we get this information. And of course, if by doing so, we strengthen our credibility and avoid, as we said before, plagiarism. Now, I'm going to give you an example here about like how we can actually use this method. Okay, please, can you take a moment just to read it, like a couple of minutes? Please try to read it and try to think about the points that we just discussed. The point, the example, the support, the analysis. Where can we find it here? I'll give you just 2 minutes. Please read it and let me know once we're done. Okay. Can someone please tell me where did I use the point part of this method? Anyone? Give it a try, please.
Can I answer?
Yeah, sure.
Is it the first statement where you said Cleopatra's image as a ruler was deliberately constructed to reinforce her legitimacy?
Definitely, yes. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we began with the point, which is Cleopatra's image as a ruler was deliberately constructed to reinforce her legitimacy. Okay, I presented an idea. Okay, what's the next step? We need to give an example. Okay, can someone please tell me where is the example?
May I?
Yeah, sure, please.
Her coins are the example.
Yes, definitely. Yes, here I got it from the primary source. I decided to use the coins as an example to, like to support the idea, which is the image as a ruler was deliberately constructed to reinforce her legitimacy. By presenting the coin here, we're depicting her wearing the traditional Egyptian symbol. And of course, this gives us an idea about, yeah, she wants to be perceived in this way. Okay, now, if I want to support this idea. So I gave the example and I gave the point, and then I gave the example and I explained the example. I need to support it. It's not going to be enough like this. I need to support it. Where is this? Where is the support here? Can anyone please tell me?
The Egyptian sources.
Definitely, yes. Thank you. The Egyptian sources emphasized her divine rulership, while Roman historians like Cassius Dio portrayed her as a manipulative seductress. Here, the support comes from this contrast between the Egyptian sources and the Roman historians. Okay, so now we're creating like an idea that, okay, she constructed her image as a ruler, okay, by using the coins. Egyptians reinforcing this idea. But on the other hand, we're looking at a different perspective, which is the Roman historians like Cassius Dio portrayed her as a manipulative seductress. So another point of view here. Okay, so now we talked about the point. We talked about the example. We talked about the support. Now I need the analysis. Where's the analysis?
The contrast is the analysis.
Definitely here. Of course, here this analysis explains how these different portrayals reflect political and cultural bias, highlighting the importance of considering multiple perspectives when analyzing historical figures. So by doing something like this, we're actually trying, we're showing our professors that we really did our work and we studied really hard, and we're presenting a point, supporting it with an example, explaining the example, adding support to it to open the window or the way for a different perspective, and then analyzing it. Always, all our professors in the university try to push us to add our own like voice in our essays. They love to read our analysis about topics. So always try to apply this. And trust me, if you do so, your grades will soar, inshallah, and your professors would love your essays. So until now, is everything clear? Do you have any question concerning this?
No, I think it's very entertaining.
Thank you. Okay, so in the end, okay, just remember, of course, that nonfiction is not just about reading, it's about thinking. Every book, every article, and report has a purpose. It's not just for fun, okay, and it's not just boring information. There is a purpose behind it. And our job as readers, and of course, as students of English literature, is to ask the right questions. Okay? Do you have any question concerning this?
So far, so good.
Yeah, wow. That was amazing, mashallah. Very informative. Like Hen said, it's very entertaining, full of, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if I would do, I wouldn't do this the way you did it. Mashallah, Joyce. Excellent, like
Thank you,
always.
doctor. Thank
I
you,
think we
doctor.
have room for questions
Yes,
if people
definitely.
have questions. Come to the mic and share with us.
Hello, all. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
It's
Alaikum
salam.
salam.
not a question as it's a comment. It's really informative. If we have students, so they will learn a lot. Even if we're peers, it's just like it's refreshing to our memories, to our. It was I really enjoyed it. But thank you so much for this informative session. I really like it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr.
That's an
Rabab.
honor
Thank
to
you.
hear this from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you.
It's true, Allah, and I mean every word. And it's really refreshing, and the ideas behind the biases. I listened carefully actually to everything you said. The idea behind this is like critical thinking, and we always, even in EL 111, even in the courses, we encourage students to critically think and deeply think and dig deep behind everything they learn. This adds to that, يعني. This is really, this was a great session. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah. Sandy, hi, how are you? Would you like to come to the mic and share?
Hello, doctor.
Yeah,
I'm
hi,
fine.
Sandy. Long time no see, huh? Or no here.
Yes, I'm a
Yeah,
graduate. خلاص.
yeah.
But
Mashallah. Yeah.
I heard so many interesting thoughts about this session. That's why, to be honest, I wanted to join it, and it was very interesting. And there was like very good information to add to our knowledge. And to be honest, Joyce, I've learned with her. We shared classes together, and this is the first time that she gave us like a lecture, and it was very joyful.
Yeah.
Like you get the information in a very good way, not like a boring way. I'm not saying that our courses are boring. I'm just saying that it was joyful.
Okay. Yeah, she's living up to the promise. Yeah, this is the Joyce that we all know. Thank you, Joyce.
I
Thank you so
agree.
much, doctor, for this opportunity, to be honest. Thank you so much.
Any more questions?
Yeah, doctor, I just
Yeah.
want to have
Can you identify yourself? What's your name?
yeah, Noor.
Noor what?
Noor Dugan.
Hi, Noor. How are you?
Hi, doctor. Yeah, I just want to tell Joyce that you did such an incredible job. I'm really proud of you, and everything was really amazing. And of course, I'd love to try using what I learned today. It was really inspiring.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Noor.
it
Thank you
was.
so
Yes,
much, Wallah.
was. I think somebody wrote something in the chat. Yeah, this is Joyce. Joyce is the best, very supportive and cooperative. We love you. This is written by Rana Muhammad Farahat. See?
Thank you so
The
much, Rana.
star
Thank
of the
you.
night. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to stop on this note, and let me just remind you that we'll have at the top of the hour at 12 a.m. we're going to have another workshop, and it's TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language training for those who are considering working as teachers. So we'll see you there and then, inshallah. Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.